Ilya. He's the head of the agency Avia Center and our expert, if I might call, on this panel from Russia with nearly 25 years of experience. Come over, Ilya.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thanks. Dear friend of mine, Aditya Mehra, co-founder and director of 77, a man of few words, but with rich experience of 20 years, has got his agency to diversify into 99 Travels, a luxury MICE company, and worldwide events, a latest venture for luxurious and exclusive experience to travelers. Thanks, Adi, for joining us.
Thank you, Siddharth.
And my personal favorite, Kainaz, as she likes to be referred to, co-founder 7 Steps and 70 EMG. Her career spans 2 decades of orchestrating some of the most spectacular celebrations, driven by creativity and meticulous planning. I have Kainaz here as a panelist. Thanks, Kainaz. Kainaz.
Hi, pleasure meeting you.
So, as Manisha introduced the panel, we are going to be trying to decode on how MICE can be leveraged in Antalya. But before we get there, a little show of hands. How many people in this room have actually done a MICE event here in Antalya, please? Hands higher, the light straight up there. Ketan, you don't count. Sorry, I missed those hands. Hands up again, please. Okay. Very few. And in that little group, how many Indians have done a MICE project here in Antalya?
There, Siddharth, that's it.
Oh, hi. So I'm going to call you in for this panel at some point.
Yeah, we will have questions.
Yes. So I'm going to start with you, Kainaz. Considering that at 70 EMG, you and as a group company, you guys do a whole host of events across various spectrums. And this is your first trip to Antalya, as we were speaking in the morning. What's your first observation on Antalya as a MICE destination itself?
So coming from largely a wedding specialist background, it's always been superb hearing about the kind of deals, scale of events that we can do out here. Brings me to wonder why we don't do much more. I came in a day early to kind of just soak in the space, and it really wows me to think of why we don't do much more in a place that's got so much to offer. Think of it, and what we're getting to learn right now in terms of the inclusives, in terms of what there is to offer at each resort in this destination, is what's really something to think of and wonder how to take forth much stronger to all our clients.
Thanks, Kai, for that. Adi, this is also your first trip to Antalya, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
What are your opening thoughts on Antalya as a MICE destination with that little time that you've spent and gotten to know a few people over here?
So Sid, I think being the first trip, what I actually saw was a lot of great venues across, and the kind of ballroom spaces that we have available. So for MICE, it's excellent. Like if I could put it across that from the size of 1,000 square meters to 3,000 square meters being available over here, which is a big number versus what we get back home, it's a very big advantage. And I foresee a lot of corporates picking up advantage for that.
Okay. Thanks, Adi, for that. Ilya, like I said, you're our in-house expert on this panel. Okay. Tell us about your own experiences. You mentioned in the Zoom call and our conversation yesterday and today that you have done a bunch of MICE events here. How many MICE events have you done over here in Antalya?
In Antalya, I would recollect about 6 big events. I'm not speaking about smaller and incentives and fam trips. And speaking of Antalya, I think I should start from the Stone Age.
Okay, go ahead.
And give my credits to Tourism Office of Turkey that in late 90s promoted Turkey and mostly Antalya as destination to the Russian market. And back then we were learned what all-inclusive is. And I think that Turkish all-inclusive is like the standard that Russian market used to know and used to love from back then. And when I came to work for MICE agencies, this was obvious When speaking about a big conference, when the client need a ballroom, food, and gala dinner to come to Turkey, because here you can get everything in one place. And most challenging, probably, the thing to organize the conference event here in Antalya is to pick the venue.
Spoiled for choices.
Yes,
600
with
plus,
all my
yeah.
respects to Titanic Modern Palace as the beautiful venue, there are a lot of venues even here in Lara and in other regions of Antalya. And when we come for the inspection trip to pick up the hotel, every time it is a challenge, because in this place, in one venue, you have the huge territory, you have a lot of outlets, the entertainment parts of the conference. In the other hotel, you have bigger ballroom. In the next one, you have the pier for the yachts, and so on and so forth. So every time, it's the most difficult part.
Of choosing a venue.
Of choosing a venue.
Great to hear that, Ilya. I'm just going to pick on the fact that you said that in Antalya, the whole all-inclusive package is very attractive for the Russian market. Okay, so I'm going to move this to my Indian friends over here. You know, when we say all-inclusive in India, you know, it's always comes down to the fact that clients feel that there are always going to be hidden costs. Okay, and here what I understand from the Inventum Global team, all-inclusive really means all-inclusive. Okay, it means the rooms, it means the conference facilities, it means all the restaurants, it means all the F&B, mini bar included, 24 hours service. So in that context, okay, Adi, I'm going to go with you first on this and then follow it up with Kainaz there. How do you see the Indian corporate responding to an all-inclusive package vis-a-vis what they are used to pay for every line item? So your thoughts on that, Adi?
I think it's a brilliant thing to have, because somewhere we all know when we go back and sit down with our clients, you know, every cost is being calculated, every element is being added up, and alcohol comes as one of the biggest components, where a couple of corporates come down saying that, you know, we don't want to spend that kind of money. But here, when you have a 24-hour open bar for you and all meals are included, it's brilliant. It's a great selling point, I would say, back home when we go back to our corporate clients.
Okay, Kainaz, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, pretty much the same. We often, when we're striking a deal with a destination, with a hotel, we go with like a list of 100 odd questions. You know, what is included, what is not. It's generally when a hotel sends a package, there's just so much that is excluded. You know, this is something that we've kind of just been so frustrated about as planners, both corporate as well as social events. You just, when you finally add up all the fine print and all the little, the tiny elements, it does work out to considerably much higher amount. So hearing this all-inclusive package is just, it's kind of like a cut short this entire process of negotiating and haggling and just say, here you are, you have the best, we're not going to have any hidden costs, and it just makes our lives so much easier to try and sell this as a concept to our clients. I mean, it is really wonderful.
Okay. Ilya, coming to you, the all-inclusive package for the Russian market, is that an expected norm, or is something that has got introduced because of the interactions that you've seen in this market?
This is accepted as a normal and as a standard, like I said, from the late 90s when we learned what all-inclusive is. And even if the client wants to make a conference somewhere else, not in Turkey, outside of Turkey, in other countries, they always ask, do they have all-inclusive? And I would say that there are some destinations competing with Turkey with approximately the same travel time. Also have all-inclusive package, but for example, only wine included, or only local wine included, or only, let's say, all-inclusive walks until 10 p.m. And that is when clients see this is also all-inclusive, and comparing to Turkey, they give advantage to Turkey, to Antalya, because in here, you have it, like you said, guys, 24 hours a day, and it is our job and the client's organizer's job to do. When we have the first welcome dinner for the group, is to make it welcome dinner as early as possible and stop it as early as possible to make the audience in the ballroom the next morning.
But what about the minibar? That's 24 hours on there, right?
Have you checked the minibar in here?
Not yet.
It's very smart of the hotel owners. They put just 2 bottles of beer. Okay. That is obviously not enough but that is good for the morning for someone. So people would have to do something. They would have to go to the outlet to get the alcohol at night. So somebody, I hope they would be lazy before the official part starts. Okay. But it's great for, especially for night outs, for the refreshments during the day. People easily can go and get, and for the clients, for the organizers, on the budget-wise, it is easier to foresee. There are very low extras after the event, because in other places, you always have like extra cup of wine for gala dinner because accidentally you run out of white wines, or accidentally you run out of red wines, or some bosses want to have cognac, and this always like paying more and more and confirming these expenses with the client with WhatsApps. It's sometimes it turns to be a nightmare. Here, no problem at all. You just came. The audience got the table at the ballroom for gala dinner, and you don't have to worry at all, except you only think about the program, not about the food or alcohol.
Okay, thanks, Ilya. Kainaz, going over to you. In Indian MICE concept, okay, but I think it's always largely led with incentives, not so much the meeting and events, it's incentive-led meetings and events, okay. Given that the Indian clients like to just spend half a day or maybe a day in a conference room and use the next 24, 48 hours for shopping, sightseeing, understanding the destination. How do you see Antalya in that aspect? I know you spent a day here earlier than us, so that's why I'm calling you out on that. Okay, but how do you see that making a difference for the Indian market when choosing this as a destination?
That is a very important point, but I'd also like to point out how invariably when it's incentives, yes, for most other events, people want a captive audience. They don't want people to run off. They want to have curated times for experiences, whether it is some sort of adventure, whether it's a sport, whether it's, shopping for sure. I haven't really been able to discover Antalya as well yet, but just walking around in the old city yesterday, it was lovely getting lost in these on these little old streets, doing a bit of shopping, and just experiencing what it is like. Just have some time off, like downtime. That is really important for some experiences and incentives. I feel you need slightly more curated experiences for incentives also. I don't know what all Antalya has to offer as yet, but
you will see that in the next couple of hours. Then
looking forward to seeing that
in the next 2 days, Kainaz.
But even just walking into a restaurant, which has, I kind of just wandered into it, but it's right at the cliff. By the main pier, and I thought it could take about 300, 350 people, and having that as just, an experience to kind of have a sundown and enjoy the rest of the evening. These are there's so much that we need to find and curate as planners. Looking forward to learning more about Ilya will be able to highlight that more for us right now, but I feel there's a lot that we can do around the place. Just need to find out what that is over the next 3 days. Looking forward to Inventum leading us to these little experiences that will matter for incentives.
Thanks, Kainaz. What about Adi? When we were talking to the Inventum team here, we were hearing that October to May is the ideal time for MICE events in Antalya. Okay, how do you see that working for, again, the Indian market? Is that generally the time they go, or now pandemic, every time is an available time? How do you see that working for the Indian market?
So Sid, I think October being the start of, like, we're close to Diwali, where we know that it's going to be a vacation period, and also with the incentive market, where you know that your quarter's over. So obviously post, for the last quarter, before the last quarter, the results are announced, and yes, we do have incentives that happen. 1 month over there, and then maybe April, May for sure, because JFM, that is Jan, Feb, March, for a lot of these guys is a brilliant time where they do their closing. As in India, the closing happens in the month of March. And post that, the results are announced, and there are loads and loads of incentives that are being done across by corporates at different locations. So that's going to be like a good time period for people to come here.
Thanks. Ilya, picking on what Kainaz said, when you brought in groups here and you're talking to groups over here, are you seeing them wanting or venturing out of any of the 600 properties that we see in Antalya for meals? What's the general ask? What happens there?
Of course, definitely. Any group, even if the venue size is enormous, every group wants to have extra experience after traveling to the new destination or this destination for the few times in a row. And Antalya has a lot of things to offer. I think guys from Inventing Global and on the tomorrow sessions would discover much more options. But in here you have Antalya Old City, you have the waterfalls, you have the amusement parks. And from my own experience, many our clients, they want to have some sports activities, like corporate football games or softball games or anything like that, any ball games. And here for the Russian market, Antalya is also a training field for Russian professional football teams. So in here, the fact that I know there are a lot of professional and semi-professional football fields, and our client, they can use it in this off-peak season for the activities outside of the program, outside the venue. And also speaking about the dining out, yes, there are few options that we checked already. And of course, it includes transportation, so there would be some more organization tasks to do. But if the group wants to go out of the venue, there are many options.
Okay. I'm already getting signals that we are coming to the closure time of our session, but I've got a few more things to catch on. So Ketan, if we can spend a few more minutes, then we can just capture, especially the message that you sent in the morning, which is a critical part that I've been saving for the last bit. Adi, since you are also very operation inclined, okay, we're seeing a great setup over here in terms of the staging, the lighting, the LED. Do you think there is anything more that from a MICE agency or an event company that you would be looking for in Antalya in terms of a tech support?
No, Sid. I think they've got everything. The video that they showcased, it was a great example of seeing what all can be done. And I'm sure after Chetan's presentation, if we can, come down with some more creative ideas, Inventum is great to help, or they would be always ready to help us.
Okay. So Kainaz, decision making, since you largely curate wedding and social events, decision making for those kind of events is largely individual or by a family. Whereas in a corporate, you have to navigate this entire group of people and hierarchy, if I might call it, okay, to get them to decide on choosing a venue or a location and things like that. In that context, how do you see Antalya being seeded as a MICE destination?
So, interestingly, how Chetan pointed out, irrespective of who is hosting an event, at the end of the day, there is always a budget, and there's always a target to reach. When it comes to social events, it's just so much easier because you have the one person who needs to take the call, the decision makers directly. When it comes to corporate events, yes, you have to go through a rung of people until you ultimately get the decision, and there's just so many considerations in process. But at the end of the day, when you look at the bottom line, it's just such a quick seller, you know? It's to say there are no exclusives. There is no hidden cost. There is no, we'll have to figure it out later at some point of time. When you look at an all-inclusive, it's a very quick selling point, according to me.
And heated swimming pool in many venues
And
here
the
in
heated swimming pool.
Thanks for that, Ilya. I understand that Rima from Maximus, if she's in the room, is signed on to do a mice in the next 2 months here. So if she's around, it'll be
I
good
think
to...
she stepped out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be stepping out when you need them. But anyways, so the cost bit that you spoke about, Kainaz, Ketan and the Inventum group sent me a little working in the morning, and it actually surprised me in a nice, pleasant way. The information that I was given to understand, and we were chatting about it before we got into the room, to do a wedding in Goa for 400 people at the Grand Hyatt Goa, I'm just talking Indian rupees here, is 3.2 crore. It obviously does not include the flights and everything here. And to do something similar of that in Antalya, what I understand is in the range of 2.5 to 2.6 crore. Okay. Surprise, surprise, what I hear from the Inventum group here, to do a MICE event, which is all inclusive, the meeting rooms, the accommodation, the F&B, are in the range of 1 crore without flights. So I don't think there can be a better value proposition over here. I think it comes down to all of us having the willingness to reach out to our corporate clients, to reach out to our friends in the industry, and giving them an option that Antalya here is a fabulous MICE destination. I'm just going to go to the last part of that piece here, has closing remarks here. Kainaz, I'm going to start with you here at the far end. Now that we've spoken over the last 20-25 minutes about Antalya has a value proposition in terms of a MICE destination, you guys do a lot of work with various corporates like the MGs and the Skodas and the L'Oreals. Okay, how do you see yourself or your company going and pitching to these people for Antalya as a MICE destination?
I think it's going to be really easier process. Just need a few details, and it's just, as I said, and as we weren't even surprised, we were shocked when we heard the numbers. Taking that kind of figure across to any clients, I'm amazed that we haven't actually actively been at it already. But it's going to be a super easy job, according to me, and I cannot wait to push and present Antalya as an option.
And if I may give an advice,
sure.
You named several international brands like Skoda or L'Oreal, and I think that Inventum Global, they've worked with every international brand in the world, and they have hosted them here in Antalya. And you can ask them for any result photo videos, and you can show, for example, photos of Skoda Russia having an event here in Antalya, to Skoda India, and that would be a blast because you will see happy faces, lots of food, lots of wine, amazing equipment in the ballroom, and the going out, the tours, everything, and everything has already been done here, so that would be a
that's always
easy
a
selling
help.
point.
Having been done before,
Yep.
tried and tested.
I think, Sid, what I would also want to add is they are also open to the idea of, doing a recce with your client whenever whoever would want to come down and who's interested. So that also helps a lot. Also, if we get some, I'm going to sit down with Ketan to make some comparison sheets like how he gave us today in the morning for Grand Hyatt Goa and Antalya. So if we make this comparison sheets for a couple of our clients and go back to them with 200 people or 400 people and present it to them, I'm sure it'll work.
So Adi, you recently did a very large event for a pharma company in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
they do it annually because that's what
Yes.
I'm aware of. How do you see pitching to them? I'm specifically using this as a recent example, and because I know Lupin did something over here to get them to Antalya for next year. I know they've always been doing it in Hyderabad for many years, right? How do you see that change?
So Sid, what we did was for 4,000 people, and yes, after COVID, 4,000 people coming down together was a big challenge. We were also pretty, in a thing where how will it go? But by God's grace, it went very well. But yeah, I think if we go back to them with the numbers and if we can present it to them that we can take you to an international destination versus what you've been doing in India, and these are the positive points that you can see. Why not? I think it'll be a great opportunity.
Ilya, the final point here, any suggestions for our Indian friends on the panel and the rest of them to go and pitch Antalya as the MICE destination?
Like I said, ask Inventum or any other your partners here in Antalya for the pictures, for the examples of international brands or industry companies like any pharma company with 4,000 or 5,000 attendees. And it has already been done here.
Yeah.
And also, as far as I know, for Indian market, it is important to have Indian food during the conference, during the trip. And in here, after all these weddings held, I believe that any chef in Antalya is already aware of Indian cuisine, and I think you're going to have experienced it previously. So this is also might be a selling point for you guys.
Okay. Thank you everybody for being part of this panel. The quick takeaway for the session is Antalya definitely is an exciting MICE destination for all of us, because of the all-inclusive packages. There are loads of multiple venues, not only in terms of 600 options here, but within these 600 options, I'm told this is the smaller of the ballrooms that we are using. So just imagine the larger one is just probably the double the size. And if from the numbers which Ketan and the Inventum team have given, at least for the Indian market, very cost effective if we have to take it into account. So it's over to us to figure this out. Thank you very much for being part of this panel. Really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure
everyone.
chatting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elias.
Thank you.